Example of that is even ourselves. If you're in a problem situation, your mind tells you to get out of that problem a certain way, right? You tell yourself, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. But whatever you tell yourself, because you're in that situation, you're stressed out, you have anxiety, you have anger, you have whatever other frustration, what you tell yourself at that time, if you were completely calm, you would give yourself different advice, wouldn't you? Or if you took the time to think about it, you would consider other factors that you didn't consider at the time. In other words, even when we diagnose ourselves, even when we give ourselves advice, it's biased. We can't even give neutral, fully considered advice to even ourselves. We're not even capable of that. And so I keep coming back to the idea of advice. The doctor giving you impartial advice possibly, a friend, a family member giving you partial advice, you yourself giving yourself biased and partial advice. The reason I'm sharing all of this with you is, is because when Allah says that He knows everything, and then He says that He advises us, okay? قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Counsel, advice has come to you from your Master. Quran, Allah says about Himself, وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah is teaching you, وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And Allah knows everything. Allah is knowledgeable of everything. You know what that means? That means that He understands your situation completely, even better than you and I can understand our own situation. He recognizes our problem, our feelings, our thoughts, the thoughts we have said, the thoughts nobody has ever known that are going on in our head. Sometimes something's going on in your head, your face looks a little disturbed, your husband or wife or son or daughter turns to you and says, "What's wrong?" And you say, "Nothing," even though everything's going on. You just say nothing, because they can't handle it. But Allah knows that nothing is something. He knows exactly what it is. And knowing all of that, He gives advice. Knowing all of that. It's kind of unfair sometimes that we think the Quran is there to give us religious advice. The doctor will give us medical advice. The mechanic will give us car advice. The accountant is going to give us financial advice. And Quran will give us what? Religious advice. But Allah is not limited to religion. Allah's knowledge is knowledge of all things in your life. Everything that's going on inside you. Everything that is for your best physically. Everything that's for your best financially. Everything that's best for you socially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, in terms of your health. Everything that because all of that is Allah's making. And He made you and me. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ. Doesn't He know who He created? After knowing us completely, He gave this advice. So this advice is not just one angle, you see. It's not just one point of view. Human beings can only see things from one point of view. Allah sees all points of view. Allah sees all points of view. And that's why, Allah Azza wa Jalla is the, لَا يُدْرِكُهُ الْأَبْصَارِ. Eyes cannot perceive Him, but He can see through all the eyes, He says. يُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ. He perceives all vision, all perspectives. So it's not like your perspective is something Allah didn't take into consideration. Your situation is something, sometimes people hear advice from Allah's book, or you even contemplate advice from Allah's book and you say, yeah, this is good religious stuff, but my situation is special, it doesn't apply to me. Because, you don't know my full circumstance. Yeah, I don't know your full circumstance. Somebody else doesn't know your full circumstance. Allah certainly does. Allah certainly does. And He gave this advice to humanity, knowing every single human being and all of their problems and all of their needs put together. That's when Allah speaks. When He says, "Wallahu alimun hakim." When Allah is knowledgeable and Allah is wise. This book is based on wisdom. One of the names of Allah that keeps coming up with His name knowledgeable multiple times in the Quran is that He hears. He hears. Wallahu sami'un alim. Inna Allah huwa as-sami'ul alim. The one who hears, the one who knows. Human beings have been crying to Allah and crying to each other and speaking to others about their problems or having conversations with themselves since the beginning of history. And Allah has heard all of it. All of it. And all of it taken into consideration, He gave us His revelation. That's a mercy from Allah Azza wa Jal. So when He says that a counsel has come to you from your Rabb, وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, it came to heal what you have inside of your chest. That's because He knows what is inside of your chest. He knows what I'm feeling. He knows what I'm going through. And just like sometimes a doctor gives you a diagnosis and he gives you a prescription that isn't very pleasant. No doctor you're going to go to if you have tooth problems is going to say, I don't think you're eating enough chocolate. Because you need to keep, do what feels good. Sometimes the advice given is painful. Sometimes it's a root canal, isn't it? Sometimes the best thing for you is surgery, isn't it? Sometimes what you need to experience is painful, but it's actually better for you. Sometimes people have a terminal disease in one part of their body, and it's spreading. And the advice is that part of the body should be cut off. Now, losing a part of your body is unimaginably painful. But the choice is this: either you cut it off or you let the cancer spread everywhere. Those are your choices, right? And so sometimes very painful advice is not meant to cause you pain, but actually to save you from destruction. To save you from destruction. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ. It could be that you love something, but it's no good for you. أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It could be that you hate something, but it's actually better for you. Based on what is actually better for you and actually better for me, whether or not we can see it, based on Allah's knowledge, He gives us advice. He speaks to us. He teaches us. Allah says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهِ. Have consciousness of Allah, and Allah is the one teaching you. Last comment about this is the difference between right and wrong. Allah gave every human being, the ability to tell the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't matter what religion you come from, what culture you come from, you know that lying is wrong. You know that cheating is wrong. You know that stealing is wrong. You know that hurting somebody else is wrong. You know that pushing the orphan is wrong. You know that oppressing somebody who can't help themselves is wrong. You know that degrading somebody is wrong. You know these things are wrong regardless of where you are in the world, what culture you come from, what society you come from. This is something Allah put on all human beings in their nature. Allah programmed that before we even came on this earth. So that's universal. But above and beyond that, there are some things that we could never have known are wrong or right. There's some basic morality that everybody understands. That's the basis that Allah taught us already. But above and beyond that, we could never have known what's right and wrong. There's no way I could have known that the flesh of swine is no good. I couldn't have known that on my own. I couldn't have known certain animals are not good for me to eat. I couldn't have known, for example, what's good for me, these prayers at this schedule, 5 prayers, very specific times, aren't they? There's no way I could have known that's really what's best for me. There's no way I could have known that. So this distinction between right and wrong, human beings have some sense of that. But Allah has the full picture of it. So when Allah tells you and me something is wrong, and when Allah tells you and me something is right, then you and I have to put our knowledge of what we think is right and wrong aside, and we have to submit ourselves to the fact that Allah knows more than we can ever know. That Allah is Al-Alim. Allah is the one who knows. And Allah knows what is right is always going to be better for us. The reason we are hesitant to take Allah's advice sometimes is we think that if we follow what Allah is saying, it's going to cause pain. And you know what? The fact is, when you follow what Allah says, in many cases it does cause pain. That's a fact of life. Following what Allah says does not lead to comfort, it can lead to difficulty. The best people who followed Allah's advice were prophets, and their lives were full of difficulty, yes or no? Right? So following what Allah says will lead to difficulty, but that difficulty is way better for you than any ease that comes if you don't follow it. That's the truth. The truth is, if you don't follow His words and find some easy way for yourself where you feel you're safer, you feel that's best for you, you can lie to yourself, you can tell yourself that's best for you, but the truth is you are heading yourself into destruction. And I'm heading myself into destruction. I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal really helps us internalize in the depths of our hearts what it means that Allah knows everything. And based on that knowledge, it's easier for us to trust His advice and trust His counsel and live by it. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim.